Morning.
Good morning, Mike.
I'd like to call the order of the Overy County Solid Waste Budget Workshop. I will do the invocation, and I'll ask Ms. Creed to lead us in the pledge of allegiance. Can we pray, please? Father, we just want to take a few minutes to thank you for all the good things and the blessings that you have stored upon us. We ask today that you go with us in this meeting, give us understanding and wisdom as we try to do the best for the citizens of Overy County. We ask a special blessing on the board and the staff. All these blessings and all others we ask in your Jesus Christ's Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I need to get approval of the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second. It's been properly moved and second. Are there any questions? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Let's have it, and the agenda has been approved. First, agenda items is the 21 to 22 budget discussion. I guess I'll turn that over to you.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Just want to begin with, of course, as we're going through this, please stop me if I go too fast. I tend to do that. But also, if you've got any questions, as we're going through it, please go ahead and stop me. Answer any questions you have. We want discussion on anything and everything that you might have questions about or concerns with. I did give you, I apologize, a couple pages that we had to update. There was a calculation error on the pages that are in your book. Mr. Johnson was nice enough to show that to me, and that's another reason like I said, this is a draft copy, so any typos, any corrections, I've already gone through and circled a lot in here that I found myself. But anything like that, let me know, like I said, so we can make those corrections along the way. As you're aware, what we've got in front of you is our draft operating budget and capital budget. We prepared a 2-year operating budget, which we prepared for FY21 and FY22. And then we have prepared a 5-year capital budget that we'll get to as well for FY21 through FY25. Like I said, staff has done a really good job. They were requested to keep expenses where they were for last year, as we don't anticipate a lot of increases. And so they, like I said, they've done a really good job, and each division director will go through their department or their division themselves. I'm going to begin on page 1, which is the summary of revenues. Our first line item that you see here is our tipping fees. As you can see, we have budgeted for FY21 $14,934,500. That's a 5.26% increase over FY20. If you, like I said, if you want me to, I can go ahead and kind of take a look at what makes that up. I hate to flip back and forth, but on page 2 is actual breakdown of the tipping fees. As you can see, for FY21, I'm not budgeting any increase in tonnage for solid waste. It continues to be 265,000 tons is what we budgeted for 20 and what we anticipate for 21 as well. Yard waste, we've seen a slight decrease in our yard waste. So we did decrease that from 32,000 tons to 30,000 tons. Our mixed construction is where we have seen our increase. We had 115,000 tons in FY20, and we're anticipating 122,500 tons. So a 6.5% increase from 20 to 21. C&D recycling, as you can see, we did see a slight decrease in that as well. We had 17,500 tons in 20, down to about 15,000 tons for 21. The other areas are pretty comparable to where they were last year, with not any significant increases or decreases. Our concrete and asphalt is down a little bit, but everything else, like I said, is just slight increases and decreases. One area I would like to point out while we're on this page, of course, is, and we talked about this at our pre-budget workshop back in December, our tipping fee increases. We are budgeting an increase in solid waste from $36 a ton to $38 a ton, and for our mixed construction from $28 a ton to $29 a ton. And that increase in the mixed construction also affects our C&D recycling and our shingles. They will also both go to $29 a ton. Shingles, because now they're having to be put in the landfill, we're not able to recycle those anymore, so that's why we also charge the same rate there as well. The other tipping fee that we're looking at changing as well is our tires. Tires without receipts are currently at $110 a ton, and we are going to increase that to $150 a ton. Like I said, we did have some discussion with DHEC, and that was a rate that they had kind of suggested to us. It was kind of the going rate, so we are going to raise that rate this year. Our tires, off-road tires, we just had some discussion this morning about that. We all of a sudden kind of gotten an influx of off-road tires and on-the-road tires. And the company that's actually collecting our tires is charging us $320 a ton to dispose of those tires. So what we'd like to propose in this budget, you don't see it here, but where we'd like to make a change is to increase our tires off-road and tires on the road to $320 a ton. You see they're $110, but we're gonna increase that to $320. As you can see in the past, we haven't had very many of those, very little at all. But all of a sudden, we started getting some of those. So that's one change that we would like to make. If you remember, our discussion was about the tipping fee increases due to, of course, the cost over our materials recycling facility, the cost for recycling. With the market prices being so low right now, you know, it's taking some of our tipping fee to help cover those costs while these market prices are low. And so we'd like to be able to increase our tipping fee to help cover those costs. As we discussed at the meeting, it was better to increase our tipping fee so that that rating that covers all of the people in Horry County, whether they're recycling or not. You know, like I said, we encourage everyone to recycle. That way everybody's paying that fee through the tipping fee instead of implementing a recycling fee. That was, like I said, the board's request, and that's what we have put in our budget here to do that. Yes, ma'am.
What criteria are you using to say that some of these, like yard waste and so forth, are going to go down next year, and then some at the bottom are going to go up? Why do you think that's going to happen?
What I normally do when I take a look at these tonnages is I do an analysis based on last year, the first half of last year, the first half of this year, then the second half of last year, and I kind of do a high and a low and get an average of the two. Because sometimes, especially yard waste and those type of materials, you'll see more of that maybe coming in the spring than you do in the fall. So I try to take both halves of the year, but I do an analysis every year on each category here as to highs and lows to get an average. That way I kind of know where we finished up last year. If we've had a storm, I try to withhold any of that storm-related material so that's not having any impact on it. So that's just from the analysis I've done. Then usually, like I said, I'll try to get together with Mike to go over it just to see if he has any idea, if he thinks there could be any changes in where, especially with the C&D recycling. He has a little bit more knowledge, of course, on if he thinks we should be able to get more or less. So it's just an overall analysis that I do based on actual.
The number of permitting in different houses and developments that are going in, the yard waste and shingles, and what would be C&D that's concerned with that, I would think it would go up.
And it is, but it's going up in the mixed construction area versus them separating it.
Okay.
That's the problem, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Were we not at one time grinding the shingles and using them on our roads?
We were several years ago, Mr. Jones. We ground them up, and the machine that we used, it about destroyed the machine. So, by grinding them, so now we just landfill.
Okay, because I thought at one time, were we not using the same machine we were using to grind concrete?
No, we're using our wood grinder, grind up.
I thought the guy that we brought in here to do the concrete, I thought we used him.
We typically, I don't know if we've ever done that with shingles.
Okay.
With our concrete guy, we usually bring him in about once a year.
Right.
To grind up concrete.
I thought the asphalt companies were buying shingles and.
They were when fuel prices were $3 a ton. I mean, not $3, fuel prices were $3 a gallon. They were buying.
The liquid asphalt, right?
Yeah, now it's cheaper for them to buy virgin asphalt than it is to put the shingles in. Now, there's still some company that does it. Boggs puts a little bit in theirs. You gotta realize South Carolina is the one that don't allow a certain amount in asphalt period. They don't allow in the road asphalt where North Carolina does, and we were selling to North Carolina.
Seems like I read an article where they use those for daily cover now. Grind them up, spread it out for daily cover.
If you grind them, we'd probably need a different type of machine to be able to grind them. So just a wood grinding machine that we had before we were about to destroy it.
Sure.
Any questions on the tipping fees? I'll go back to page 1.
Have you ever thought about, grinding the tire chips, tires and chips, selling back to the center company with that? What's that company called?
The company we do now, that we have a contract with to do the tires now, they actually grind them and bring them, when they bring them to local vendors now, for like Harrington,
Yeah.
septic tanks, they bring them to North Carolina. So a lot of times when they come in to pick up ours, they'll drop off a load, get the tires at the same time.
It's easier to transport if they're chipped.
A better price, but I think it's many tires, we gotta realize, we haul at least one a day, trailer load, and sometimes 2 a day of tires out here. Every day. And currently FEMA, I'm not FEMA, but DHEC, on passenger tires, if monies we don't get in, they will subsidize us to pay it, so it's a zero charge. If we bought a machine to grind them, then that would be a cost on us. But right now, we pretty much break even on tires, am I right? See, we get enough grants in to pay for the passenger tires. They don't do it on off-road truck tires and stuff, but they do on passenger tires. So we sort of break even with that. Between the money we get in with no receipts and the grant money we get in, majority of the time, we're gonna break even.
That's a good objective.
And if we bought a piece of machinery, we would have the manpower and all that to deal with it.
Wasting machinery, that machine doesn't last forever.
I mean, it's a good recycling process, but, you gotta have an outlet for all the chips you bring in.
I think anytime you break an even tire, you do good.
Okay. And that was a good question you brought up, Ms. Creech, because I do the same analysis also when looking at these revenues as well. Like I said, I kind of go through the same process. I try to look at actual last year, first and second half of the year versus the first half of this year, because we see a lot of fluctuation, definitely. The recyclable material sales, as you can see, a significant decrease of 27.35% from FY 20 to 21, from 2.6 million to $1,889,000. And of course, that has to do with 2 factors. Of course, the Charleston material that we no longer are getting, but also the market prices that are currently down. Interest earnings, this is our pride and joy, and we thank the county, of course, and our treasurer that's done a tremendous job with our investments. We are seeing a significant increase in our interest that we're earning. As you can see, we were able to increase it from $200,000 to $550,000 in 21.
That is a heck of an increase.
It is, yes, sir.
Gee, yeah.
The waste tire rebate, as Mike was just talking about, we have seen an increase in that as well, from $120,000 to $175,000. And of course, like you said, that's the money that we're getting from the state for the money that you pay every time you purchase a set of tires, the $2 rebate that we get a portion of. I'm gonna get it out in a minute. Miscellaneous container rental. These are the cardboard containers that we have throughout the county that we service for the customers to promote recycling. As you can see, we don't have any change budgeted here. Again, this is another item that we kind of, as a group, have kind of talked about, looking at it, possibly increasing the rental fee on this. We charge right now $28 a month for the rental fee. We don't charge, of course, anything for the service of the container. And that rental fee has been in place since July 1st of 2008. Our concept was, to begin with, was that, a new container costs around $1,300. And we've always used the concept that, over 3 years' time, we'd like to be able to recoup the money for any new container. So currently, at the cost being $1,300 for a container, it would take us, in 3 years, it would be $36 a month for us to recoup that cost. So we'd like to ask the board, of course, in this budget as well, to increase that monthly rental charge from $28 a ton, or $28 a month to $36 a month, for those customers. That would increase our revenue in the miscellaneous container rental about $100,000 a year. Like I said, just as long as, like I said, the board's okay with that, and like I said, as we go through this budget process, we'll make that change.
Will we lose any customers by
Yeah.
boosting it that high? That's a big.
That's a big
That's a
jump.
that's a big jump, and it's,
Well, we're the only ones in the county currently doing
Yeah, but is
any,
that taking advantage of them? I would rather we did a gradual step rather than a leap.
and like I said, and that's, if the board would rather make that move, I mean, that's fine. If they have a different recommendation, you know, we're open to.
Will that even pay our cost for doing that?
It doesn't pay our cost necessarily for the program itself, and we've never operated under that concept. Like I said, we're doing it to, of course, promote recycling, and also it helps to promote support the MRF as well. And we are the only ones currently, of course, with the market prices as low as they are right now, nobody's in the business but us, of course. And so, like I said, it does cover the cost of the containers, and that's kind of what we've always tried to recoup, is our cost of the containers.
Okay.
What is the lifespan of the containers?
Yes.
So we could do a 5-year return and still be break on the price.
By the time you add additional cost for lids and painting over a 5-year time, you're gonna get back to about the same number.
Is that right?
Well, I don't have any problem with raising it that much because it's not even covering our cost for what we're doing. I realize we're doing it for a good reason, and that's a good thing, but I think we need to get a reasonable amount.
When we took over the Waste Industries route, one thing we found out was they were charging as high as $100 a month for that container.
For the container?
Yeah, so they're a lot cheaper than they were.
I would think, I'd like to stick with the increase.
Yeah.
Have we had much of a fall
No, sir.
off? That's good.
I don't know why you raise your hand.
I don't know why, because everybody didn't jump. Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
I think we're kind of in the same position here that we were at one time with the tipping fee. This seems like a huge jump, and percentage-wise it is, but it's been such a long time since we've had one. I think I would be in favor of this, but I would also recommend that we don't wait this long before we do this again. But I think this is almost a catch-up situation here to get us back where we should have been gradually coming along to be here.
Mike, go ahead. I don't have a problem with it. My only concern is, the problem we went when we waited so long to do the tipping fees with the cities. I'm not sure how many customers are we gonna let go, so that we're gonna lose any customers, based on the fact that we're gonna go from 28 to 36 all at one time. But I do think we need to cover the cost for the containers. Because you said they only last 5 years?
Right, yes, sir.
And so at the rate we going, they'll have to replace them by the time they pay for them.
And
So
it's
it
still
doesn't make
saving
any
the
sense.
customers quite a bit, because
Yeah.
if they had to pay for a dumpster pull, it'd be a whole lot more than,
Yeah, if they
That's what I wanted to ask, was what would it cost them if we didn't do it?
right.
dumpster picking up and somebody buying it, renting one may know this better than I do, but I'm working off of old numbers or hearsay too. But one time a week service for an 8-yard dumpster, and that's what we have, an 8-yard dumpster. It's about $150 a month.
it looks like a big number to jump for, but I think we need to have a, public relations information session, let them know that it's been so and so many years since we've had this increase, and we're basically, trying to make up for lost time. And I think if we present it to the customers in a statistically accurate manner, that they'll understand that that they've been getting it for a discount for quite a while, and now it's time that they have to pay for the historical lack of payments, and I don't think the drop off. But I think if we just raise the fee and we don't explain it to them, I would probably agree with Bo that there might be a fallout. And I just think by reducing the fallout, explain to the customers why it's going from 28 to 36.
Anything else?
Lakeville gas revenue, We are seeing, you know, a slight increase there as well.
Is that a contract rate, is that or is that something we negotiate each year?
The landfill gas?
Yeah.
It is in 2008, we signed a 20-year agreement with Santee Cooper. It's a fixed rate for 20 years.
When is it coming up?
When does it expire?
20 years from 2008, so that'll be 28.
Yeah, 28, yeah.
Or when we get a new owner?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we don't know what's going on with this Santee Cooper stuff. So that
And
may
what I've
change.
heard throughout the state, our rate is pretty good.
Yeah.
We get paid 6 cents a kilowatt hour.
It's 90 cents per MMBTU.
Given the current energy market, that it could go down.
We contracted, and what we're being told is throughout the state, we got a pretty good rate compared to what other people are getting. But it was we were the first one in the state.
Thank you.
Chief, let me go back to the dumpster deal. We made a comment that kind of worried me a little bit, that we're the only ones in the county picking them up. Don't want anybody to think that we're the only ones that got the pickup and we're gonna gouge them. Mike, how about explain to some of the board members that weren't here how we got into the cardboard container pickup business?
So in historical lesson, in 95, the solid waste authority tried to pick it up through contract with Clean Incorporated. That have already, I'm trying to think back historically.
I'll get you.
They went out of business, went under. We got some pressure to take them, continue the cardboard route. Didn't have very many, but you had a few. Got an old truck in the city of Myrtle Beach, bought it. Old used truck, that's how they picked it up. And then 95, 96 timeframe, I came to the Solid Waste Authority and said, I was working Waste Management at the time, said, I want to get out of the business.
Sure did, you did say.
Can't make no money at it. At that point in time, back then, we were charging $50 for one time a week service. Couldn't make no money at it. So Waste Management wanted us to get out of business. I came to the Solid Waste Authority and sold them all our containers and all the service related to them, and they took them over and went from there, and it has grew since that period in time. When times are good, everybody gets into it. When times are bad, they come running to the authority to take the routes. And that's what's happened over the years. And that's why we're in it today.
You pick back up when we bought Giuliano out.
And we bought Giuliano, Myrtle Beach Recycling got out of it. They had a bunch of them in. Then Waste Industries came, wanted us to take theirs over, and we took theirs over. We gained about 300 customers probably during that period of time. Giuliano was charging nothing for it because he had the marketing of selling the cardboard when it was good. Waste Industries is charging it 3 times a week. They charge $150, $160, $70. We charge a flat rate of rental only. Back about 2008, I think we were buying containers for about $800. And over the years, steel prices went up and they went up. So that's where we at today. If we went and bought a load of containers, we'd pay about $1,300 a container to get them in, if we bought 24 at a time.
Sticker on this thing, they pay a monthly fee, but if we have to pick it up 6 days a week, we pick it up with no additional cost. All they're doing is paying that monthly rent.
Regardless of the
containers.
And I think if people, and we're gonna get calls, we're gonna get complaints, and we're gonna get people, well, I'm gonna quit. And we'll have to explain to them, you know, well, if you take 8 cubic yards being picked up 3 times a week, and you throw it into the garbage side, that's gonna cost you $200 or $300. Right. So we're gonna have to go through that. We're gonna have some of that. Question is, do we move forward with it or not?
And that's the same story we tell them today when we go and try to encourage them to put a recycling can in instead of putting it in the garbage.
Mr. Johnson?
Having been in that situation and had the service, it's not high math to figure out that one pool will pay for that container. for the month that may get picked up 6 or 8 or 10 times. So, I mean, you can't argue with the savings, you can't argue with the math if it goes to $50. You still can't argue with the math that it's a better deal. So I agree that if you raise it $1, you're gonna get complaints. Whatever you do, you're gonna get complaints if you change it at all. But I think it's a reasonable and a fair fee, and I think it's a fee that's defendable, that you can explain it and say, look at the numbers.
And all staff was doing is that when we started this program in 95, we said we want to cover the container cost. We want to recoup whatever the container cost is. So at least we don't pay them for the containers out there. So, and that's how they came up with the price. And that's what staff went, that we went back and said, our container price has gone up. The philosophy's been this all along, we need to bring it to the board's attention. Go ahead.
When do you think you're gonna need to buy new containers? Because if you do that, they're gonna be just about twice what the cost is that we pay for the used ones.
Well, we repair them all the time.
Yeah.
We keep them repairing them over and over and over and put bottoms in them. It'll cost you $600 or $700 to repair a container. So we got containers out there, we put bottoms in several times and keep repairing them. But, when we get to the point you can't repair them anymore, we have to replace them. And we haven't had to buy any, probably a couple of years or so since we had to buy any. Now, a lot of that had to do with Waste Industries containers and buying Juliana containers and stuff like that. We had some here in the yard that we've had. So we put them back into operation, and you'll see us in here in our budget, we increased our container maintenance cost this year due to that effect. But the settle lids for it's $100, locks another $100, bottom's $500, another $200 to paint it. You know, we trying to make them last as long as we can, but.
C&D recycling revenue, as you see, we do have a decrease in that. And of course, that has to do with the market prices as well. E-waste processing fee, no change there. Like I said, it's remained pretty steady. So, like I said, so that's kind of a good thing. The cost hasn't gone up drastically. And then the store continues to do quite well. And we're keeping their revenue the same for the year. So as you can see, the total revenue for FY21 is $18,891,000, which is a 2.2% increase over FY20. So we don't see a significant increase, but it is a little bit of an increase in revenue. Yes, ma'am.
While you brought up the e-waste, how is the new company that we have doing, and are we checking to make sure they're doing what they should be doing and not renting different states? Warehouses, please.
So the company we have now, we've had for 5 years. They are, we do require a bill of lading being sent to us to show where they were actually shipped to. And every load, I get this bill with showing the bill of lading where they've been at, and a certification saying that they've been processed. And I get that with every bill, and I look at that on a monthly basis when we get the invoice, all the bill of ladings and everything's there. Could somebody lie about it? Absolutely. But, you know, I've got all the backup paperwork that says you signed an affidavit saying this has happened. So, we are currently, this year, it will go back out to bid. Our current contract ends in August. But sometime this year, we'll be looking at it.
Okay, after this last business with that ending up in a warehouse in Florida and it cost us, I guess we need to make sure where they do take it and what they're doing with it. I don't know what we could actually do to
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's
do anything any different that would work.
Even though we follow it, we may know where it goes, but it may go from one place to the next place. But wherever it end up, if it doesn't end up in the right place, it's still gonna come back home.
Yeah.
And that,
Go
we're
ahead,
always
Mr.
gonna be
Carl.
liable for it, no matter what you do.
On the going back to miscellaneous container rental, do we need a motion to make that happen?
As far as the $38?
You're going from 20 to 36.
I don't think so. I think we're just putting it in a pre-budget, and when we, vote on the final budget,
That's right.
it should be in there.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move over to page 3. We're going to move over to our summary of expenditures. And I guess really, I'd probably like to focus a little bit more maybe on page 4, because it gives a little bit more detail, a little bit more breakdown. And as I mentioned, every division director will go through their budget. But as you can see, just overall, the general administration division had a slight decrease of 0.5% overall. The operations division with a 5.2% increase. Public education, and corporate affairs, as you can see, a slight increase of 3.2%. And like I said, just based on those, you can see just a 4.4% increase. The designated funds, just a 2% increase. And the non-departmental is a decrease of 13.1%.
What are the transactions for unrestricted capital?
I'm sorry?
What are you got transactions under, unrestricted capital, $252,000 that's being transferred, it looks like.
It's not a transfer. What that is that's that what we call the E-money. Under the capital items, most of the items in our capital budget are coming from some type of designated fund, whether it's equipment replacement, closure, post-closure, but we have several items that there is no funding for. And so in the past, those are items that we were only able to purchase if funds were available. So we've tried to, a few years ago, we started trying to set some funds aside in the operating budget to be able to cover some of those items.
So we have an unrestricted fund.
So we have a little bit of unrestricted capital funds, yes, sir, that we actually use to purchase those. And again, we look at those very closely. It's not just, like I said, first of all, this money wouldn't cover everything under that unrestricted in the capital. So we look at it very carefully. If there's something in particular that they have to have, there's a great need. What they normally do is prioritize their items. And then we'll kind of take a look at that, and as funds, as they go through the year, if it's something that they definitely need, they will make that purchase.
And we're forecasting we're going to have a need.
We're gonna have a decrease based on our funding this year, yes, sir. This was the one area that I had to actually make a cut in order to get the budget to balance.
Well, that's what it looked like, but I wanted to know what the explanation was. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The other increase that's high is environmental management, 14.6%.
Yes, sir, and that's high because she actually has a, new person in that department. We had an unfunded position, and so, like I said, I'm sorry, it was a funded position that was transferred from, collection and hauling into this department. So that's why you'll see such a large increase in her personnel. And she'll go over that when she goes through her budget.
No problem.
Yes, sir. So anyway, like I said, I'm gonna get started on the first, well, we'll go through personnel, I'm sorry, page 6. We'll take a look at page 6. As you can see, this is our summary of budgeted personnel. We didn't have any significant changes other than we did have one unfunded position that did become a funded position this year. But other than that, like I said, we no significant changes or increases in budgeted personnel. I'm going to start on page 9, going over the administrative division, and this is the board of directors. As usual, this will be the case for each division. You know, we did have increases, of course, in our workers' comp, as we budget every year, a 20% increase. Same thing with our health insurance. Like I said, we always factor in about a 20% increase until we know for sure exactly what we'll be facing this year. Our retirement, of course, went up 1%. It's up currently 16.56%. So we'll all see that. We also have budget, of course, in our salaries, our step plan, and our annual bonuses are budgeted in there as well. So you'll see those increases in those personnel costs across the board for every division. In the board of directors, no significant changes. Like I said, you'll see it in the workers' comp and the retirement, are the main changes in this department. Overall, like I said, they had a slight increase of just 1.4%. On page 13, which is the Department 501, which is administration. In this department, this is the Executive Director, Human Resources, and one custodian and groundskeeper. As you can see, of course, again, personnel cost. There is an increase on stormwater, as you can see. $500 increases. Our stormwater fees have gone up this year. On page 14, the main significant change in this department is under consulting and miscellaneous, 2415. As you can see, there's a $50,000 decrease. In FY '20, we had money budgeted for the waste composition study. We won't be doing that this year, so we're able to decrease the budget for that. So overall, for this department, like I said, they did have a decrease of 2.8%. Of course, that had to do with being able to reduce that line item by $50,000. The finance department begins on page 19. And this includes the Director of Finance, one accounting supervisor, one accountant, one accounting clerk, and 3 clerks. As you can see, of course, the personnel costs are the only significant increases in this department. It had an increase of 3.2% for this department. Page 22 is our non-departmental. As you can see, the Horry County Community Waste Disposal Fee, which is the $2.25 that comes out of every ton of MSW and C&D material that comes into the landfill, that's the $2.25 that we send back to Horry County, did increase. Of course, that's based on the tonnage increase that we're anticipating in mixed construction this year. The rate stabilization, which is our contingency funds, and those are the funds that are set aside that if an emergency were to come up and there was something that we need to do as far as purchase of piece of equipment, have something done, that has to come to board's approval before that any of those funds can be used. We did decrease that just slightly. The unrestricted capital, as Mr. Ives just mentioned, we did decrease that by $200,000. And there again, that was because we just don't have the funds to fully fund that. And then, of course, there was a slight increase in the store. They have a little bit more costs over there. And just remember, those costs, like I said, the revenue and the cost, we do actually include in our budget. However, like I said, we do because we are the ones that collect the money each month. We do pay, the utility bills. We don't pay their salaries. That's paid by Council on Aging. But we do have to record the expenses because we do collect the revenue. We record the net revenue and the expenses.
On 4404, that HET mechanic, is that for a scholarship or is that for?
That's a new program that they started, their diesel mechanic program over at Horry Georgetown Tech. And they had come to us and asked us about a sponsorship. And so we agreed to give them $25,000, which would be $5,000 a year for 5 years, to help implement that program, get it started. It kind of also helps us in that allows us to kind of pick from that pool as necessary. And we've been very fortunate with that. We've had a couple gentlemen from that program that have come and work on Saturdays and things, so it's been
I talked to the
very
principal
worthwhile.
yesterday, it's paying off in spades.
Yeah.
The program's good.
Good.
That's my time, don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah,
I tried to get that program for 20 years. I'm glad somebody had it.
How about 5 years to get it done?
Yeah.
Rich, how's that working out? I know you've talked to those folks over there quite a bit and tried to help them out. How's it coming along?
That program's very nice.
Yeah.
They're moving along very good. Getting some, good prospects out of that.
Yeah. They, of course, they're trying to do the same thing that they do at, Florence Darlington over there. They've got a heck of a training program over there.
I think this one's better than that one over there, but from my standpoint.
Well, it's probably a spinoff from Florence Darlington.
Right.
That's probably right.
That's where you've been involved in it over the years.
Yeah, so it's a good program. I'm glad to see it's up and
I'm
running.
glad to see it's working. Mike, just think how much better things got there since we left.
Maybe that's trying to tell us something, right?
We should have left earlier.
They just used our ideals when we left, so they didn't get any credit while we were there. I know the game, it's all right. I ain't mad at them, as long as it's working.
That's right. The next division is the operations division, and I'm gonna turn this over to Mike so he can go through all the different departments that fall under the operations division.
I'm gonna let Stephanie do 504, since she's the most knowledgeable, she manages that budget, so I'm gonna let her do that. Ms. Carter.
Mine starts on page 25, and if you look at the salaries, that's where a big increase was, and like Jan said, that was due to the fact that the position was transferred from the collection at Holland to Department 504. But this position will be shared between both departments, just the expenses will come out of 504. The next thing on page 25 is there was an increase in the vehicle insurance, but this number comes from finance. But there are no additional vehicles or equipment budgeted for my department for this year. So Dan may be able to speak better to that increase.
And this is, like I said, we are constantly looking at our insurance rates, and we were able to, like I said, our tort liability kind of went down per employee, but our vehicle cost did go up, but since our tort went down, it did definitely outweigh when we switched over our insurance, so we have seen a little bit of increases there.
There's a large increase in personal services, 282 to 362, on page 25.
And that's to do with the new position.
That's the new position.
Yes, sir.
Page 26, engineering, there was a $4,600 increase there due to the NSPS compliance reporting, which we are required by DA to do. So that covers that expense. For monitoring and testing, we increased that by $27,500 to cover the Tier 2 NMOC test, and this is something that's required every 5 years. It's a physical test to examine the emissions coming off the surface of the landfill. And, you know, once we do it this year, then it'll be removed from the budget. So that was the reason for that increase. For 3111, which is landfill gas maintenance, added an additional $10,000 to purchase down well pumps for our gas wells. We haven't purchased pumps in a number of years now, and we're rotating them out constantly and pulling them when they stop performing. We're replacing parts, but you know, over time, the more you pull it, the more you replace parts on it. It kind of gets to a point where you can't refurbish it anymore. So I put enough funding in there to buy some new down well pumps for these gas wells, because we need to keep them dewatered in order to be able to pull that gas out of there. For sustainment contracts, that went up $350 because we're having more expenses in radios now because of the additional position. This person needs a radio to be able to communicate. Uniforms and clothing, that went up $300. Again, that's because of the additional employee. Materials and supplies went up by $2,000 because as we move forward and time moves forward, we have more and more things in the well field with the leachate collection system, with the landfill gas system that are needed to be replaced or repaired. So we're seeing, you know, a little more expense in some of those areas for small items. Over on page 27, travel and lodging was increased because we're going to send the environmental specialist to what EPG has a service school, and it's to train technicians to know how to master the control panels for the side riser pumps, which is part of our leachate collection system, troubleshooting with the pumps, and anything that we need like that, because right now we don't have anyone that has that knowledge, and we're constantly on the phone with them, where if he were to go through this school, then he could just go up to the panel and he'd know exactly how to start troubleshooting. So, which they've been tremendously helpful, but I think it'd be very beneficial for us to have someone on site.
Anybody got any questions about the report?
Yeah, we're impressed with fuels and lubricants and tires staying the same. I can bring my car over here and.
You'll probably go up if you bring your car.
Yeah, probably.
So,
Doing a good job as a department. I wanna know what your secret is.
and,
Recycling.
That's your thought in your mind.
Thank you. Stephanie, I think y'all are doing a great job, and to me, checking those things on that landfill and make sure those pumps are working correctly and we're checking and everything there. Even if we need someone, to be trained to check that panel, to me, that's very important. It's very important for the life of the pumps, for the gas we're doing and environmental. So, I think you've stayed on top of that, and if there's anything else that you need to make sure we do a better job on that, please let us know, because that's very important.
Thank you.
All right, on page 30, on 520, go to the electric department. You're gonna see an increase under 2115, that is electricity, and that's based on, the electric charges we get charged. I mean, it's just what our monthly bill has been, it's went up, so it's up by about $8,000.
What do we use here?
For the electric.
Oh, really? Okay. I can, pay for it. I can understand.
If we're selling electricity to Santee Cooper, why are we using Ori Electric? Santee Cooper is usually cheaper than Ori Electric.
They don't have any lines here.
They don't have any lines out there.
Oh,
So they had to, when they did the generation station, they had to have Ori Electric bring lines into the system to take the electricity back to Santee Cooper.
there isn't any way for us to use our own electricity that we're producing, is there?
They still charge you, even if you put up solar panels, you have to tie it to the system.
Yeah.
We can set up one of those little gasification burn systems where we can burn and generate.
But do you let us have a burn pit?
Yeah, I'm not into burning anything.
We can't have a
Thank
burn
you
pit.
It's
anyway.
too bad we can't rob off the high transmission going through here.
So cable cross.
On page 31, 2120, water and sewer, as you can see, that more than doubled.
Right?
It's,
Page 31,
Yeah, I know, it was,
very first line.
okay.
top line, 2120.
And it doubled why?
We get charged based on the amount of TTO or BODs that's in the leachate collection system. So if it goes up, we pay more. If it goes down, we pay less. When we put the new wellfield system in, from that point on, it started going up. And so that means it's pumping water that's been there for a long time. It causes the TTO to go up and the BODs. And our prices continue to go up from that. It was running about $6,000 a month, and it's anywhere from 10 to, I've seen a couple of them steady about 9,000, but they've been as high as 13,000 in a given month. So we had to increase it to cover that water.
Mike, how does all the rain, accumulation, does it have anything to do with this?
Oh, absolutely.
Because it have more leach?
More gallons.
Yeah, okay,
We had a lot of rain.
yeah.
So
Okay.
that's where that's at. So we just, whatever our bill was, because I've been having to transfer money from other line items in the department all year long to try to cover that cost. So I'm transferring from other parts of my departments within my division to that line to cover it this year, but next year I budgeted that.
And I'm assuming there's nothing we can do to change that, to clean it, do
It
it.
is what it
It
is.
is.
How frequently is the sampling done?
We sample 4 times a month,
For TTO, you said it.
on Tuesdays. So we do TTO 4 times a year, and then regular samples 4 times a month.
Thank you.
Engineering, we raised that by $25,000, for, airspace utilization study. So that's where the additional 25,000 is in there. Contract and hauling services, we went from 25,000 to 100,000. So when we start filling our ponds up for phase 3 piggyback, that pond has limestone rock in it. We'll no longer have any limestone rock left. So we're gonna have to go back to what we were doing before, and that's buying rock to make road beds. So that's where we increased it. Currently, we still digging out of it, and we get as much as we can out of it before it starts. But when we start back, and we think that's gonna be sometime in the summer, we'll start buying rock from off-site.
Are you able to stockpile any of it?
Oh, yes. Yes, sir. So that's what that number is. So, you know, if for some reason we didn't have to have as much, we just don't know how much we're gonna need, so we have to put some kind of number in.
Can we use coquina or anything else in lieu of?
That's what we use now.
It is a coquina.
And really, if we didn't do anything with the pits, it's about over.
We're about out, we're about run out. One of the ponds is done, you can't get any more out of it. And we went back to an old pond and take a little bit out of it. And even if you didn't do anything with them in a year or so, you'd be out of it anyway. So it's gone. All right, on page 32, there's no changes. You guys have changes on page 32. 33, the only big change is where you see where we're adding, our landfill cost of closure, post-closure amounts, money's increased, that's based on the tonnage. So it increased because of the amount of tons coming in the landfill. That's a huge increase.
Depreciation is really jumping.
New equipment. You know, we try to take equipment and don't buy it, stand out, you got no depreciation, no depreciation, and you finally, you say, I gotta buy a piece of equipment, you start hitting that depreciation, and that's where that's coming from. We had it in, had to buy a new piece of equipment for the SWC, or construction and demolition recycling. We had to buy several new pieces of equipment. And as that, you know, when you run out, you ain't charged, it feels good, and all of a sudden you get hit with it. And you have to do it. So we have to weigh the cost of maintenance costs versus buying a new piece of equipment. And we bought some right new piece of equipment in the last couple of years.
And the stage you and forecasting it included here?
Yes, sir.
On page 36, Department 511, which is our yard waste department. About a year or so ago online, on 2115, electric and heating, we put lights down at the yard waste facility. And I put this number in, Jan called me, we never had no light, we never had no electrical bill down there. I said, well, we got lights now, we gotta pay electric. So, that was put in about a couple of years ago, lights down there so you can see. So that's where that's at. And that's basically the only change at all in that department. As you can see, the overall department actually dropped by about $2,000 something dollars. So, on page 512, construction and demolition landfill.
Page 40.
I'm at 40. I was thinking
We
512.
just-
I was like 512, I'm gonna have to make a jump up. You want a different budget?
Yeah. It wasn't that wasn't dealing with the county's budget, then on page 512.
You waited till you left, and then you went to his budget, right? That's a smart move.
Uniforms and constantly went up, so we put that, you see a $400 increase in that. So that's basically, let's see what else goes in there. Landfill, the biggest department, thing there is about $40,000 in closure and post-closure money that we shifting over. That's the biggest chunk of that part. But that comes along with increased tonnage. When you go increase tonnage, you gotta increase that fee that we're setting aside for landfill construction, closure and post-closure. On page 44, Department 513 is not paid. Page 44, you go to 45, you have substantial contracts. You see it went from $864 to $7,000. So that is the contract, we sub out contracts on maintaining equipment. So that's why you see that increase. So it'll be $7,000 for new equipment, and of course an increase in uniforms. Other than that, that department has been basically about less than $27,000 increase overall. 519, which is our maintenance department, page 48. And there was very little change, every department, had, very little change, wages, personal services went down. Our maintenance contracts went up a little bit of maintenance equipment went up, so it had about $2,000 increase for the whole contractual service. The whole department, less than $2,000 increase.
Big decrease because of small equipment capital.
Yeah, that's where we put stuff in there to buy for utilization in the shop.
You're not forecasting any in 24.
That'll probably change. Richie loves a
I
piece
was
of
gonna
all
say,
capital.
I can't imagine him skipping a year.
Oh, no, that'll change.
There's a lot of stuff stays in here from year to year. Reseal the concrete floor in the shop. I've got that off for years, so that, you know, we got it in there if we have to have it, but, you know, don't use it unless we have to. The air pumps for the trucks is another one, that's $2,000. We've had that in there for several years. So stay in there just in case our goes out. Nobody got any questions on all this stuff? 521, which is the MERV. Here we go now, right? 53.
You're changing some employees. This, you're swapping people out.
Not yet, as I made earlier, we're in the transition time period right now, trying to get the material run and trying to get things done, so we have not pulled down on our template people, contract workers.
Yeah, I noticed that you didn't show much of a reduction.
And we talked about that internally and exactly where we're gonna go, you know, if we end up next year taking material from somewhere else, we may need some additional employees.
You think it's just too soon to tell?
Do anything.
Exactly.
Do I think we'll be at that number? Absolutely not. But I'd rather have it in the budget than trying to do a budget amendment.
He's also been informed those funds won't be used for anything but that contract labor.
Yeah.
So if he's able to save money, that's great, but he won't be using it somewhere else.
But I think the finance director is supposed to.
Sorry.
Yeah, you can.
But that's the biggest thing in this budget. Of course, the overall budget, is, we did have to increase in heating and cooling as, the units get more and more older, they require more and more repairs. We afraid one of them's gonna go out about any time, but that one air conditioning unit, which provides fresh air to the inside of the building, is over $50,000. So we keep repairing it, to keep moving it on, to keep having to spend that $50,000. At some point in time, we're gonna make a financial decision, it's gonna be better to fix it and keep repairing it. So that's what you see by the heating and cooling going up. And of course, labor went down a little bit. That's the only two major changes in that department.
Appreciation.
Yeah, depreciation. I think depreciation, you'll see it went from 300,000 to 505,000. That was due to the new equipment. The other one was paid for, the new equipment's coming in. So, you know, my goal would be to try to make up that with labor, break that even back with labor. Place in the hauling department on page 58. So you'll see on 2438, an increase from 6,500 to 13,500. That's for, it says GPS system, and that's a new system that we have on the trucks currently that we're working on, where they're weighing the containers so we can get better weights on the containers and better weight information to submit. So we know what it will eventually do is, if a customer is going too much or not enough, we'll be able to run a report and tell what that is. And we can increase service or decrease service. And we'll have a piece of paper to go show the customer, you're not having a full container, and therefore we're gonna decrease you from 1 time a week, from 3 times a week to 1 time a week. but that's the point of that system, and that's in, and I think it'll more than pay for itself when it gets, when you get it fully in.
Yep, we saw those at some of the conventions,
Yeah.
and, I think it's going to pay off from what you
We
did.
should adjust by what's needed, yes.
Yeah, sorry?
We should adjust by what's needed. That's-
Well, our agreements with the customers is that we don't, we say what the service is gonna be, not this. But if you got enough, we gonna dump it. You need an extra dump once in a while, we gonna get it. But we just not gonna pick you up 6 times a week just cause you want us to. So, but before, we were relying on the driver's vision to look at and say, well, can's half full, or driver's knowledge and say it's half full, or this. He's writing down, trying to look through a hole and writing down, we'll get away from all that. And of course, the maintenance on the container, which I mentioned earlier, went from 65,000 to 75,000. So, and then of course, the radios went up. And that's me, that's the end of me. Anybody got any questions?
The different, I think, operations and machines, we didn't have enough money in some of those accounts. Has that balanced out any, or do we, I know we spent a lot.
You're talking about equipment depreciation?
Yeah.
And you want to address that?
Well, we'll kind of go over that, like I said, when we
Okay.
get back here to the back, I'll kind of show you where we are with
Okay,
that. Yes.
that's fine.
Esther?
I begin with the, Public Education Department on page 62. Jan mentioned the payroll-related, increases that are within the budget. So other than on page 63, there was a slight increase in small equipment capital. And that's, we buy different types of containers every other year. Next year, we'll be buying even recycling containers, as well as upgrading a laptop computer. The only other significant increase, some small increases in travel and lodging. Overall, that departmental budget increased by about 3.8%. On page 67, the Corporate Affairs Department. Beginning with the standard payroll-related increases. I did want to mention, account number 2325, promotions and public relations. We've worked to try to maintain our overall departmental budgets, and in particular, our promotions and public relations. We've been able to do that a good bit because of grants that we've received through DHEC, and we usually use those to our benefit, especially when they offer public education funds. This year, we're gonna also, and I'll give that report at the board meeting, we're also asking for additional money there to do some updates to our current television commercials. They're all based on a DHEC campaign that started about 5 years ago. It was the Recycle More SC campaign. Recycle 40% by the year 2020. We're here in 2020, and the state hasn't quite reached that 40% goal. So they've converted this campaign into the Recycle Right SC campaign, which they started last fall. They've asked everybody to kind to phase into Recycle Right SC. So this year, we're gonna see if we can't receive some grant funding to get all the, we've got 10 commercials that run on various television channels. But our goal this year is to use grant money to get those transitioned to the new campaign to match up what DHEC is promoting at the moment. In the event grant funding is not given, make sure you will see an increase in that number because we will need to update those commercials. Yes, ma'am.
To me, I think we have found out that education and information to the public is very important. They need to understand what we're doing and the end result of that. So if we need to increase that budget, I don't have a problem with it.
We've been very fortunate with our grant requests, so. We're gonna pray it happens again.
We should also thank them for the balance they've been doing, because they've been doing a good job. I mean, look at the amount that's being recycled, and it's not a requirement, and we're achieving some
Yeah.
terrific results.
On page 68, again, under small, looking at account number 2222, you'll see an increase there. We do have to have some upgrades of two specific computers this year that we use here in this multi-purpose room. So those bumped out a couple of years, and they're telling their tale. So we will have to get those upgraded in the next year. And then just small increase again in travel and lodging. Overall, this department saw an increase of about 2.8%. On page 69, this is the unincorporated collection system budget. This is basically for us a pass-through to Horry County government. We prepare a budget based on trends and expenses and we forward it to the county. And then they go through their budget process, approve what they determine they're gonna approve, and we work within their means. I won't go page by page because again, it's basically a pass-through of all the expenses to run the county recycling system. However, I did want to mention, I know if you're looking at fiscal year 2020 as compared to 2021, that's a significant increase. It's about a 37% increase.
Yes.
That's due to several things. In 2020, and if you think back, so Ms. Steve's here, is more than capable of speaking to this, but in 2020, we did submit a budget to the county. However, due to some funding constraints on the county side, that budget was significantly cut. In addition, we've seen a significant increase in the amount of material that's being bought to the recycling centers. Jan and I worked on some estimates before we sent the county what we were looking at for the upcoming year. And comparing the first 6 months of 2019 to the first 6 months of this budget year, July through December, as compared to our current budget year, tonnage was up 8% in 6 months. So the tonnage is definitely up. When tonnage goes up, so does your hauling costs go up. And your operational costs are going to go up. So all these trickle down to adding to a need to increase your overall budget. In addition, when I say the county cut their budget, if you looked at just the system costs going from 3.9 to 5.9 million dollars, the original system cost for fiscal year 2020 included another $1 million, give or take, for land improvement costs, which would include things like maybe the purchase of a new site for a recycling center. Land improvement would also include any major renovations or repairs needed at a recycling, whether it's drainage repairs at a recycling center, whether it's pad repair. Their fund just did not have the money to handle that particular amount of land improvement costs. So that money was taken out. In addition, a little more was taken out through the operating budget. The current state of this budget, it's going to fall short unless the county does a transfer of funds to cover the cost for this year. I think Steve we've talked, and right now they're anticipating a shortage in this fund of about $766,000. So we're talking $250,000. They do have a ordinance that will go before council tonight for first reading to transfer that money from fund balance. So hopefully after 3 readings, that will take care of the current fiscal year budget.
That has been a recurring item, that's
Well, hopefully in the budget process for the outgoing years, there'll be some other funding mechanism developed that can cover costs, because fund balance won't work past this year.
That's right. If they don't generate more revenue, we'll have to cut the program significantly. You're talking, the only way, talking about quantity of trash that we're receiving, if you cut out 10 centers, you're still gonna have the same amount of trash.
The population's projected to double, we've got to do something.
Council will get that opportunity in the coming budget.
And that's all I have, unless you have some questions. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna turn over to page 85. We're gonna start now on our capital budget. And I'm gonna just primarily take a look at FY 21, which is the year we're gonna be working in. And I just wanna highlight some of the bigger, projects, pieces of equipment, that type of thing. The first one being the compactor. Of course, that's the compactor that we just recently came to the board and asked for you to allow us to go ahead and go out on bid for it, because it does take so much time to get it ordered. And that bid came in at around $850,000. So that we had 1.3 budgeted, but we're only gonna need $850,000. So, that'll be able to save us some money, of course, in our equipment replacement. As you can see, we have a landfill gas expansion project budgeted for $2 million. Road repair, the Environmental Parkway Road repair, which is the road into the materials recycling facility, $750,000. Stormwater system rehabilitation upgrades of $432,000. Piggyback Phase 3, the backfill, as Mike talked about earlier, $8.4 million for that. And then, of course, the leachate wastewater treatment facility, you see it says carryover. That's something that we, of course, we put in there each year as a just-in-case type thing, if we were to have to build a facility. So we do have that. As you look through here, you'll see several things that have carryover next to them. And of course, that's staff continuing to watch the equipment. If they can push it out a year, keep it another year. Thanks to Richie and his staff for maintaining the equipment so that we're able to do that, not having to purchase it exactly when it's due. And we'll continue to do that even as the year goes this year. Even though these items are budgeted, even though they're approved, when this budget is approved, doesn't mean that we actually purchase them. We continue to watch them and purchase it as needed, only as needed, and try to get, of course, well under budget. So, like I said, those are kind of our bigger items. As you can see, the funding source is listed out beside each piece of equipment. On the second page, on page 86, you can kind of see where that kind of ties back. Anything with an A is coming from our equipment replacement fund. Anything with a B is from closure, which is just a landfill gas expansion project. C is our construction development, and that's our general construction development account, which is like the roads, that type of thing. Then we have our landfill construction account, which is D. And then E are those items that we talked about earlier, those unrestricted items. You can see there's $702,000. So we don't have nearly the funds to, of course, purchase all of those, and we only have $300,000 budgeted. So those items would only be purchased again if we have a little bit of funds available for them to. More than likely, they won't. So there's a lot of those things that we know maybe they have to have or really need, where there's some things that maybe we'd like to have, but.
You've identified them, but.
Exactly, yeah. So, as you can see, our capital budget for FY 21 is $17,341,356. Now we're going to start on page, and as you can see, we have the other years there, but like I said, those will change as we go along, but that's the primary year I want to focus on. Page 91, and again, I apologize for having to update your sheets. These are our designated funds, and I'm going to go through just a few of these. And as you can see, the first one is landfill closure. As you can see, what I've got broken down here is I begin with where our balance was at the end of FY19 at $9,071,644. And then I go through each year and we make additions to it based on the tonnage that we set, or the dollar amount we set aside based on the tonnage. And then any projects or any expenditures we have coming out. As you can see in FY21, we have the landfill gas expansion, $2 million. And then as you come down, like I said, the next biggest expenditure, or I would say expenditure, I'm sorry, transfer in FY23. You can see that we have $6.5 million that we plan to transfer to landfill construction. And that's to help cover the cost of the piggyback Phase 3. It's what we consider our internal borrowing. As we've done in the past, where we borrowed from ourselves. Like I said, when we look at, closure money is not money we'll need till further out. It's money that we'll be able to put back. Like I said, so we're going to transfer we intend to transfer 6.5 million. We may not need to transfer 6.5 million. As we see how much money we're able to put aside through those quarterly transfers, if we're able to transfer additional funds into the landfill construction account. We may not need to borrow this much, but this is what we're budgeting at this time. And as you can see, where we're projected to be at 6/30/25 is 5.6 million. On page 92.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
The landfill closure costs from borrowing from this fund, still don't feel comfortable with that. We've been over it a couple times, and we even had Vance come and tell us that we were on track, you know, to, fund this fund. We know we got to have this fund available, because we know the landfill's got to be closed, and we have a time frame on that, and yet we're borrowing from that fund, we continue to borrow from that fund. You know, at the same time, we know we're gonna do a piggy bank and expand our landfill. We've known that for some time. And, the fund to do that should be growing elsewhere other than us borrowing internally from the landfill closure. I'm still a proponent of getting that money in the landfill closure fund, getting it there, sitting it there, and we know we'll be ready, because, you know, we're projected at 2040, 2041, somewhere along there, right?
Yes, sir.
Close. But with all the new, population growth and stuff like that, it might come a lot sooner. And, we continue to borrow from the fund, reducing it, now in 5 years, you know, in 2024, we're going from $9 million down to $5.6 million. I don't feel comfortable with that at all.
When have we borrowed from this fund before?
I'd have to go back and look, but we have, it's been years ago that we borrowed, for another project, for another type of construction project. We internally borrowed. And I'd have to go back and look and, like I said, look it up, it's been years.
And how did we pay that back?
Same way, during, our per tonnage put inside.
We paid it back?
Yes, sir.
And so now we're where we
Oh, yes, ma'am.
need to be,
Yes,
so that wasn't a problem.
No, ma'am.
Yeah, I think that would probably make a lot of us feel a lot easier if we've done it before and we paid it back. So if you could show us where we got it, how much we had left after we borrowed, and then where we went back and how we got it back in place. I know that they did Vance did it, and it looked good, but if we've been doing it in the past, doesn't, you know, but it would show that we are able to put that money back.
And we're able to do it without floating any bonds or
Right,
doing any
right.
type of borrowing outside of.
And the only other, I guess, option, if we don't borrow from ourselves, we gotta get it from somewhere. Where do we go to get it from there, and then how do we pay that back?
And how much interest
How
would
much
we
interest
pay
we pay.
on top of that? But, we could actually, as well as that, have a different fund where we put part of the money in there that would be, call it expansion fund, whatever you want to, so that you wouldn't have to borrow any or as much of as
Closure
that,
fund.
and just call it something different, put a certain amount in there and do it for an expansion and call it that, then we would still put our closure and post-closure money in. Okay, so that we would keep it at that level, but it would be a different fund instead of actually borrowing from closure and post-closure. And I would like to see the difference in the monies of interest if we did or did not.
Okay.
For example.
Two things. One, like you just said, where will we get the money from? You know, well, if we get to time to close this landfill and, we have nowhere else to put stuff, where are we gonna get the money from? Number two, I was looking back at the budget last year, same page, same expenditures, and we looked at borrowing $4 million from that budget, which is, you know, projected through this year. And, now we're coming back around this year and we're looking to borrow 6.5, that's 8.5. We're looking at borrowing over $10 million. So our long-term projection in 1 year has changed dramatically. And again, back to my original statement, we know we got to close this landfill. We know we got to open up the piggy bank. Both these things should be funded properly. We shouldn't have to borrow independently or move money from one another if we're doing our job properly. Maybe doing our job properly is the wrong use of word.
Yeah, because I think we've been doing our job properly, and we've been maintaining, I don't know if
Can I
that's.
interject something?
Go ahead.
So Vance has done this scale and he showed it all of us over so many years. So we got 2041 scale. You know, you need X amount of dollars here because that's 2041 time frame. And if you'll notice, the amount of money that's coming out of the tipping fees will increase when needed to make sure those funds are there at 2041. So when we build piggyback 3, that gives us more volume, more tons.
A longer duration.
Well,
So
I think,
a longer duration, and those fees at some point in time go up to make sure that by 2050, that money is there.
well, I think that was the idea that he explained when he came through. Because if he hadn't explained it that way, I think all of us would have had the same concern that you had. I know it looks like we're taking money out, and it looks like the pot is dropping, but according to what he did, and like Mike just said, we're already talking about increasing the tipping fees, and that's a trend that goes up. And the more stuff we come in, the more money we're gonna get, and the more we're gonna raise the tipping fee, is what he said, is how it balances out for the 2041, and I think that's why, and we went through all of this again when we was doing the management plan, because that was one of the big hangups we had. Everybody was like, you're taking money from yourself, how you gonna do it? And we went to some of the top people in the state who said that is doable, and that's what we based our decision on, and I'm still basing our decision on that. But I would like to see that information when we borrowed money before, and we were able to get it back even with lower tipping fees, because we just raised the tipping fees 2 or 3 years ago, which gives us a better feel of how that acts. Go ahead, Sam.
Mr. Vance, though, didn't take into consideration us borrowing from the fund. Plus, even though, like you said, we're gonna have the other piggyback up and running and bringing in more volume, even though that's up and running, we still got to have money to close the other section.
You gotta realize too now, let's say Jan, and this is where some of the money comes from, now help balance it out. So Jan projects that we have 265,000 tons garbage, and we take in 270,000 tons in that given year. That's when she's coming to you for the revenue for the additional 5,000 and saying, I want to transfer it to the landfill closure and post-closure account. So if we bring in more money than we're budgeted to do, she's coming to you every quarter and taking that revenue. We're not spending that revenue because we're taking it and putting it in those accounts. So that helps more than anything.
Isn't it a requirement that we have so much money per year transferred into our closing costs? Because the auditor looks at how much money we keep in there.
215
Walter?
215 per ton.
Right, well, there's not a certain amount, but yes, sir, we do have to make sure that we have funds available to cover closure and post-closure. Financial assurance requires us to send that.
And we annually review our status.
Yes, sir.
And if we do that and then we borrow from that, what will change in the auditor's report as to how much we have or do not?
Well, like I said, we're required to show that by a local government test, which
Okay.
uses our revenue sources in the counties, because we are a component unit of the county. So we use both revenue sources to meet that requirement, which we have since beginning of time.
Well, I'm never a proponent of borrowing money personally or for any organization, in my opinion, but at times that has to happen. I guess you'd say personally, you borrow money on your house, and I consider this to be the house. It would be looking like at the counties or the cities or the schools, they all owe money. I guess it depends on whether we're gonna borrow from ourselves or borrow from another entity, or raise enough fees and have another account to put it in. But those are all possibilities.
If we separate these funds into closure, post-closure, landfill construction, we're not required to. You know, when Mr. Moore is talking about this, he's looking at it as one big pot of money. We choose to separate it, and like I said, we could combine all of those into one that are just, we can say, future landfill costs, whether it's for closure, post-closure, landfill construction. So, you know, we're moving these funds from one designated to another, which we consider internal borrowing.
And it's reviewed on a yearly basis. Vance does that, Steve says, John, every year he looks at it again, and him and Jen gets together before they do the budget and say, this is what you see needs to be this year to make sure you're on track to get to where you need to be. So he does that every year.
Exactly, yes. Okay, page 92 is our post-closure. Of course, these are the funds that we'll need way in the future. And as you can see again, the main thing that the activity that you'll see here is our transfer to landfill construction. And there again, like I said, that's, you know, where we anticipate having to, move the funds from the designated from post-closure over to landfill construction to cover for the piggyback. Page 95. Yeah, so this is our equipment replacement fund, and this is what Ms. Chris, that you had mentioned earlier. And as you can see, it tends to be in a little bit better shape than what we had anticipated last year. We were fortunate enough to be able to do a transfer into this account at the end of the year last year. And like, as you can see, also, again, I have to, you know, commend staff because again, they've looked at different ways to save costs. As Mike has done with the compactors, buying the recertified versus a brand new 1.3 million, getting the recertified that's 850,000, of course, saves that account quite a bit. And like I said, and being able to push the equipment out, you know, to further years, also helps too, because we can continue to add the interest and back into that account. So as you can see, it does end up being in a little bit better shape. We will continue to watch it and continue to look at different avenues that we can do to continue to build this account. So it is in much better shape. Page 97 is our general construction development, and this is road repairs, that type of thing. We had talked about this account last year as well. And as you can see, this one still continues. Like I said, there is no funding that goes into this account, only the transfers. So we don't put any money aside per ton or anything for this. And as you can see, the environmental parkway road repair is the item that probably will end up coming, or we'll leave it in the budget, but will not be, it will not be doing this project unless for some reason we're able to do a transfer to build that account back up so that the funds are available for that. But that'll be the item that, again, it was put on hold last year, or we put on hold again this year as of right now. So anyway, but we did have our scales project that we did this year that did come out of this fund. And like I said, that was it was a hit to this account, but it was of course a tremendous impact on the landfill itself. It has been great. Our ladies at the Scales House absolutely love having the upgrades that they have up there, having the 4 scales, 2 going in, 2 coming out, has been a tremendous impact on being able to get the trucks in and out faster. So great upgrade that we've done there. The other ones that you'll see, these last pages, we have waste diversion, our materials recycling facility contingency funds, no activity there. The last one on page 100 is just our OPEB, and we continue to fund that. Like I said, we're very fortunate to have, that's our future, our post-employment benefits, and we're able to say that we are fully funding that. So, so that's also in very good shape. So that's all I have for you on the budget. If there's any questions you have for me.
We had good preparation for this when we had our workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See the work that gets incorporated.
Well, I appreciate everybody's input. Like I said, if you continue to go through here, if you see any, especially typos, anything like that, please let me know. Like I said, you know, I'm definitely not the best at that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the budget? The only one thing, if you would make that comparison for me, and also add in, if we had to borrow money on an interest rate,
That's what I've got written down here. the
look
interest.
at that, and then tell us how much our tipping fees would have to be to cover all of those costs.
I will definitely get through that.
All right, thank you. Okay, second thing on the item is, MRF employees discussion.
Yes, sir. You've got in your packet, of course, just a MERC contract labor analysis. Mr. Johnson had reached out to me some time ago, just wanting some information on the contract laborers that we have over our, MRFs that are currently over there working. And he just wanted some information on, how long they've been here, what their, current rate of pay is, as compared to if we were to hire them as employees. And so we just put together this analysis and understand these benefits, are strictly, you know, we're strictly talking about salary, and then it's FICA, retirement, health insurance, and tort, I think is what's built into this. It doesn't include sick and vacation time, or anything like that. So I just wanted, you know, any kind of uniforms or any of those other expenses or our employee-related expenses. These are just the basic benefits. So anyway, I'm gonna let Mr. Johnson, maybe if he wants to, talk to us a little bit about this.
I took, her information and I added a couple lines to it. It'll take a few moments for that to be passed around, so hopefully she's.
Yeah, if I need to make some more copies, I can.
My concern is, you know, we call these, you know, we get these from the temporary agency and, temporary employment status. A lot of these folks have been here a lot longer than temporary. And, I think we need to take that into consideration. If we will continue working these folks, they need the opportunity to have the same benefits as the other folks working with the SWA in Horry County. I've broken it down. You see the pay rate that we pay folks, and it's broken down into what they making per hour, then what the labor company makes per hour. You can see what their yearly employment cost is, and you can see what the labor company makes off of these folks, which is $211,000. When you take that based over on a 40-hour week with SWA, you can see where Jan's calculations have put into place. The SWA benefits come to $519, their total pay will be $569. So, got the totals there. What we currently pay is basically somewhere around $633,000. If we brought them over full time, it'd be $1 million, a little over $1 million. But I just can't in good conscience. That's been bothering me. I just can't get in good conscience that we working a man 4 or 5 years, 10 years, 14 years. And he ain't got the same benefits as the folks that are working right with him, working in the same building with him. And, I think everybody in here wants retirement, wants benefits, and wants health care. And those are some good jobs over there, real good jobs. And we need to take into consideration finding the money to make up in the budget to, put these folks where they deserve to be. That's all I got.
These people haven't been around a long time.
Have they been working for us every day, week in, month in, year out? Or do they go to work for other people and us sometimes? I also understand some of these places, and I realize they're making money, of course, their business, I would too if I was gonna do it. But a lot of these people don't have, from what I understand, come in on vans or buses that the temporary people bring them here on. They don't have any way to work. And they don't work every day. They are not interested in that kind of work.
About 3 of them have driver's license, bring the rest of them to work. Camp agency provides them with van, gas, and transportation from the hotspot on 378, somewhere in that area, in Marion County where they live at.
these people, when we bring them in, we just inquire to the temp agency.
We call it
Temp
agency, I need
agency
somebody.
will find the individual and bring them to you. Do we know what kind of process that they use? I mean, I guess my question is, like Pam said, a lot of folks do this. I would think if I was working here for 14 years and I was coming every day, one of my questions may be, why haven't you hired me permanently? I don't know how many times you've gotten that answer, gotten that call. So that gives me some suspect that they may not want to be hired completely. And I guess, you know, it's easier for a temp agent to go and find workers. Because if we do it now, we're gonna have to go through the hiring process, we're gonna have to make sure that they're legit, we're gonna have to do all of these kind of things, which are gonna cause costs. And I'm not saying that they're not legit, because I don't know one of these people from Adams House Gap. But I know that to bring people in on a full-time basis is gonna add more cost, more time, more scrutiny, because you're gonna have to go through the process and getting folks in. I'm not saying one way or the other, but you would know better. And looking at the numbers, we're gonna go from $735,000 to $1 million to hire folk in. It's a big jump
Well,
in money.
not only that, you don't have in their vacation, their,
Well, I'm just saying,
all
yeah,
of these
I'm
things
just
are
talking about what
not.
she had, we had.
Plus a 20% raise every year when you look at those things, but, and years ago, when I used to work for large corporations, and you have a need for temporary people, because just like Charleston, we now don't need
Right.
a lot of those people. If you had them hired, you would have to let them go, whether you call it layoff or whatever you want to do. But when we used, some of the larger companies used a lot of temporary people. The people that are working for the temporaries did not want to work every day or every week. They didn't have rides. They wanted to borrow money because they couldn't wait to get their paycheck on Friday. And everybody gets to work and make those choices on their own. I'm not criticizing that.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that, how many of these people have actually come to their supervisor and asked you for a full-time job?
Well, when we have an opening here at the landfill or anywhere, any permanent opening, we post it up there.
Yeah.
And we've encouraged some of them to apply for the jobs and never had one of them to apply.
Yeah, okay.
So, you know, you got that situation.
well, I go back to what Pam said. This is nothing new. We did this years ago. When I was a kid, we would hop and skop. We'd go stand up on the corner over here in Myrtle Beach and wait for the people to come pick you up because we wanted them to pay us in cash. We didn't want to wait for a paycheck. We didn't want to go through the process of being interviewed and all that kind of stuff. So this is not anything new. This is nothing that I haven't heard of, and it happens all the time. And I understand about benefits and health and all of that, but a lot of the jobs that I work and people still work, adults that are looking for work are part-time employees. When you look at what's going on in Myrtle Beach and Horry County, a lot of the people that work on the beach have the same kind of problems that these people, because most of those people are part-time employees. You think about all the people that you bring in around Christmas time, Thanksgiving time, all of those people are part-time employees. They get no health benefits. And I guess that's why all these people up here waving the signs saying that they're gonna give us health benefits. I'm not sure about all of that, but anyway.
What would concern me was if we were posting it like you said, and we weren't giving them the opportunity.
And so if none of them are asking, I don't know why they're not asking. And I know I come down here often and I see signs posted up there for jobs. So I understand what you're saying, and I understand what we're saying from a money standpoint. So I guess the question is, how do we marry the two to make sure that everybody's happy?
Question.
Hang on. Sam, go ahead.
Actually, Mr. Norfleet was before me.
Simple, like you're the one that works with them, the folks you deal with. Will it work? Will they show up? if you hire permanently and you're not responsible for their ride, you're responsible for the retirement, the health, whatever, will it work? Do you think they'll show up?
Well, you know, I don't know what kind of relationship they got with their employer, but I know from what I've seen, and their employer looks after them pretty good, gives them a lot of stuff. A lot of times they gone for a month at a time, sometimes 6 months. They say, I gotta go back to Mexico. They be gone. And so we just call the temp agency, say, send me somebody else. So, you know, I don't know that, with the additional costs and everything, it puts a different hold up there.
And at best, we've created another problem for you or for the SWA. We spent more money and created a problem we don't have.
It just makes it easy that when somebody's gonna be out a month or two, or if they get sick or something like that, we just call the temp agency, send me a note.
Well, is this the same crew of folk that we're looking at cutting back on as well? So some of them are gonna be cut anyway at some point in time.
And we talked to the temp agency about it, we've let them know anything.
Go ahead, Sam.
Couple things, we talk about temporary is a short-term process. And as you can tell, a lot of these folks have been here long-term. You know, we got a permanent MRF program over there. We're not planning on ending. So even, you know, when I look at these folks here, I'm looking at, temporary help. And I hire temporary help, I get it. I own a business, so I hire temporary help. They come in a week or two.
Right.
They stay, you know, 30, 60, 90 days, you know, I look at hiring them. And, even with subcontractor help, if they work with you over a certain period of time, they're no longer considered subcontract, you know? I mean, there's some stuff in there, but also, when you asked about if they can drive and get back and forth and do stuff like that, when they're continually getting paid only $9.80, that's gonna make it a struggle. When we brought them on full-time, that goes to $13.51. That would help a bunch of them out. Number three, you know, it's mighty odd that I look at this list and they all have certain percent. You know, we got people here in Horry County, even if we're looking at moving some of these folks off the line due to the new equipment. We got a lot of people in Horry County that would like to have these jobs. You know, some reason they're of a certain percent, some reason we're getting them from the temp agency, and some reason they're not getting hired on full-time. Are we advertising these MRF jobs? Are we advertising for people to come in here and work at the MRF?
Not on the subcontractors, the board, we got 4.
I'm saying get away from the subcontractor. Why aren't we advertising for these jobs to go to the citizens of Horry County?
The board would have to approve in the budget an increase in employees for us to be able to do.
My question was about the format here, because we're given 40-hour work week as a way to compare the two programs. What's an ideal work week? Because these are all temp workers, because it's a fluctuating demand and fluctuating supply. So it's not exactly based on work, 40-hour work. That is not the ideal for us, to guarantee them 40 hours of work every week.
Well, typically, we run 40 hours a week and they guarantee. You don't work them at least 40 hours a week. Most of them will tell you, we work Monday through Thursday, then they work a weekend job. For our SWA employees are Monday through Friday and sometimes Saturdays. So,
We have
we've
40
had
flexibility.
employees up there that run equipment. And we've had an opening for that same position, and they've never applied. Now it could be a language barrier, because most of them up there don't speak English well. So we have to interpret. So that might be why they haven't applied, I don't know. I'm just saying, that's pretty much where we're at. And typically, about every, I don't know why often you have to renew your green card, but every 2 or 3 years or 5 years, they have to leave, and it'll be a month or two before they come back.
I used to hire a lot of temporary employees through an ad
employment agency, whatever else. And some turned out to be absolutely super great workers. And I offered them a job, and they didn't want it because they liked the flexibility of showing up when it was convenient for them. And that was the biggest thing I found out, and actually had several of them tell me, thanks, but no thanks, because like Mike mentioned, they like the idea of Monday through Thursday, and then Friday do something else. And if they decided to take off 3 or 4 days or a week, they would take off 3 or 4 days, and then they'd come back again. They really like the idea of when it's convenient for them to be there. Hard to get a job. And I understand the humanitarian part here that Sam's talking about, and that's why I sympathized and I offered them jobs, and only one guy took it. And after about 10 days, less than 2 weeks, he wanted to know if I got mad at him if he left. And I said, no, go ahead.
Yeah, but it is posted, and we do give them the opportunity to apply for the job.
Anytime we got a job up,
Right.
we post that job up.
Right, and anybody can apply for it, but they have
We've
not.
had 10 people before that's come on to be full-time.
I'm talking about posting the job for these positions at the MRF if one comes available.
Yes, not those individual positions. Let's say I have equipment operator. I've got 4 SWA positions
I'm talking about at the MRF.
at the MRF. So I got equipment operator at the MRF, just running the loader, loading the line. And it comes open, we post it at the MRF. We post it for the landfill. We post them all up there. They got an opportunity to apply for them. He may be operating that piece of equipment sometime during the day or know how to operate it, but I've never had one to apply. Like I said, it could be a language barrier problem, I don't know. But we've never had to do it, and we have encouraged them to apply for them before, and they did not.
Mike, have we ever had a situation where we have not satisfied the demand for the number of workers that we need on the system? Have the temp agencies not supplied the workers?
Oh, yes.
How frequently has that not worked?
It's happening today.
Because I can see changing it if we're not meeting the objectives of the employees we need.
Well, my point is.
Let me ask you a question, please.
We still use 2 temp agencies to keep us fully staffed, even with these people.
We need 2 to order for them.
We got, it sounds like to me, instead of advertising the job when it becomes available, we're calling a temp agency to fill that position.
One of these positions, you correct.
One of these, any position, correct?
Not one of the 4 that we got for the SWA, but
I'm talking about these positions right here.
that's right. We are
So
calling temp agencies.
when somebody, when Maria don't show up for a day or 2, they send us Jose.
Yeah.
So we're not advertising for these permanent positions.
They're not
They're not
positions.
permanent.
We consider those as subcontract laborers.
And that's probably why.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, getting rid of. I mean,
And I think what Sam is alluding to, and the whole process would have to change. Because we would have to, agree that these are gonna be full-time positions.
Put them in the budget.
And then they have to be in the budget. And then you're gonna have to then go through the hiring process. And then you're gonna have to go through the advertising process. The reason right now that they are the way they are is because they're not considered full-time positions. And so the question is not, and we've all talked about part-time and all of this. The question is, are we at the point of making these permanent positions based on what the costs are?
Maybe if we're not filling the need through the temp agencies.
But what I'm hearing is that you're satisfied with what you're getting because we're getting what we need. What I'm hearing from you is you have a concern that some of these people have been here for 14 years and are not being able to have a permanent position there.
Absolutely.
And getting benefits like everybody else. And so the two sides of the coin here as to how we do that.
But these people that have been here, even though you have it on there, have not applied for them. So obviously they don't want them. I've had people in the area ask me if we were hiring, which I don't get involved in other than I say you need to go to staff and do that. And I've seen those people after that where their grandchild or their child has come up here and gone to the MRF and worked on that line. And they worked on it a day or two and said, I'm not doing that. It's cold, it's hot, it's nasty. It is not one of the jobs that a lot of people want as a permanent job. And it has to be filled some way. And most of those, everybody that's ever come up here and gone up there has never accepted that job,
Well,
as a permanent
and I
job.
understand that too, and I understand what Sam is saying is
Yeah.
that these jobs have never been advertised for people in the county to apply for. So we don't know. The decision is not that we continue to use one way or the other. The decision is, it's a money thing as to whether or not we're willing to go to a permanent position for these positions and then advertise these positions that would not just be for the people that are on this list, but it could be for anybody in the county that may want to apply for these kind of jobs. Now you gotta ask yourself a question, is that going to work out as well as what we already have? So you're gonna have to run, if you go that way, then you gotta decide whether those people are gonna show up and work, are they the kind of jobs that they want, are they the kind of jobs that people are gonna stay on? How often are we gonna have to go through rehiring and retraining and re-looking for folks? So it's a toss-up, but I understand what both sides are saying. Go ahead, Sam.
Again, I am in business for myself. I have about 60 employees. And if you advertise this job at $9.80, you're gonna get laughed at. You're not gonna get no.
Right.
Now, if you turn back around, you advertise it at $13.50 and all you got to do, you're $13.50 and you're standing at that line and you're pulling out plastics, you're gonna find people gonna wanna apply to these jobs. Now, I know his temperate, like Mr. Bo was just saying, are you happy, Mike? Sure, you're happy. I mean, I can call a temp in tomorrow and get 4 or 5 laborers, Mr. Bo, but then I got to mess with them all day. Figure out, are they being safe? Are they being trained properly? Or can they stay out of the way of the equipment and stuff like that? Or if you got permanent people, they know what to do every day. I take my permanent folks every day, 100 to 1 versus a temporary guy that comes in for 24 hours. Now, what bothers me is we got folks that's working, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We got 9 folks that's been here with us 4 years or longer. Now, that brings you back into, is their I-9 verification properly? Do we know? We don't know. If they get hurt and their I-9's wrong, we jammed up. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of, just because we're hiding a lot of the stuff under the table, them being hired by the temp agency, it's just like sending that computer off to Florida and we still getting in trouble because we don't know what's the background. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 jobs right there. I don't know these folks from anybody. But our only 2 excuses that we've come up with so far this morning to discourage us from hiring folks from Horry County or giving these folks benefits is a few dollars on the hour, and they work for a temp agency. Now, there's nobody sitting at this table right now today that'll vote, take away your retirement or your insurance to go down there and sling bottles. Okay? I wouldn't do it. Luckily, I ain't got to do it. And we're taking advantage of the situation of paying these folks a reduced pay at $9.80 versus $13.51. All because we can. All because we can. All because we ain't advertised the job. You ain't got to advertise the job if you can call in a new one the next day. I can do that all day long.
What we need to do here is vote in 20 full-time positions in the budget and additional meal on municipal solid waste and additional meal on cover.
Well, I understand.
That, and, Mr. Johnson, we have, back when Charleston was here, we had 6 firms trying to get us 2 shifts. We had signs out here beside the road. We looked at this 6, 7 years ago. Could not get people. I got personnel to look, what did we put them on for? And we couldn't afford it. We just couldn't afford it, to do it. And when you look at, how much of the difference is that? 400, $500,000?
400,000.
It's just money.
Just money, you're right, it's just
All
money.
it is.
We got a permanent facility, and we just spent over $1 million in it, what we just spend to make it more permanent?
$3 million to cut employment back.
That's right, you spend it to do away with employment.
But that's a board decision, and
It's hard for me to put my name on that right there, that's bad.
Well, I think that was right. The only way that
And I know you can't fix
we,
it overnight, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I know you can't fix it overnight, but we can start.
well, the only way it's gonna be fixed is that the board has to decide that whether these are gonna be permanent positions. And then we will have to figure out a budget that would go in line with whatever those permanent positions are.
Just based on this, we would have to increase tipping fee another dollar on MSW and another dollar on C&D, just to cover the difference.
Yeah, but you also haven't figured in their personal time and sick leave and vacation,
Right.
and you got to figure in all of that before we look at a figure.
I sort of say, yeah, but by the time we figure in,
You got to figure in the actual cost.
Let me do this, because we can sit here all day long and argue about, what the cost. What I need from the board is a motion and a second of where we want to go, and we'll take a vote as to what we're gonna do, whether we're gonna make it permanent, or whether or not we're gonna stay as is. Carl, you had something to say down there?
Yeah, if we make these permanent positions, the biggest problem we're gonna have is trying to fill them. Because people are gonna come, they're gonna work for a day or two, they're gonna find out what it's like, and they say, wait a minute, this isn't for me, I'm out of here. So we make these
I
permanent positions,
understand,
that's gonna be
I
the most difficult
understand,
thing.
we all have our quirks. Mr. Johnson, you brought it to the board. I would expect a motion from you, that whatever you wanna do, we can get a second, we can move on. If we don't, it'll die as a motion, and we will continue, because all of the things that we're saying, everybody sees everybody's side. But we have to look at what is the most efficient for the agency. And now what we're talking about is adding another $400,000 to the budget, and another dollar here and another dollar over there in order to cover all that. So what I need, so that we can decide what we're gonna do and how the budget can continue to roll, is a motion so we can handle this and move forward.
Make a motion to make these positions permanent.
Is there a second?
There's 20.
20 positions.
I get no second, the motion dies on lack of a second. Any other discussion we need on that? Anything else on the budget? Anything else at all?
We have lunch. Important stuff.
Okay,
And we adjourn.
need to adjourn.
Thank you.